Alright, hi friends, Hi-Fri here. Just a quick video for today. I just wanted to follow up on Michael Bruce's video that he posted like 3 or 4 days ago. First, shout out to Michael Bruce. If you want, check out his channel. I'll leave a link in the description. And also, big thank you to Michael Bruce for giving me a plug in the video. I appreciate that. But yeah, so essentially what has happened here. Um, I bought this IM, and this is the XSL X1. Okay, it's just a like an AliExpress brand or whatever. It's not even a brand. It's really just the seller's name. So they go by XSL or whatever, or that's like their brand for the seller. Anyway, um, but basically what they do is they just pick up IMs from different manufacturers, and they have them slightly customized. So like with this little logo here, different faceplates or whatever, and essentially the manufacturers just kind of do a little customization, and then they put their branding on it, and they've been selling the IMs. So I came across these a while back, and I thought they looked pretty cool. I thought the shells were nice, and I remember somebody talking about this IM, but it was a different brand. So far, I found three of them. So there's H Music, which is on Amazon. That one's like 130 bucks. There is the Hanadomi, Hanadomi B2. That is like cheaper than this. It's like 40 bucks. That is also on AliExpress. And then there is this guy, which is the XSL X1. So anyway, these just happen to kind of coincide around the same time. But so I bought this IM, and it sounded okay. I talked to the manufacturer about the IM because originally they weren't using any dampening, and I showed them a graph of the different stages of dampening. And anyway, then they just went and slapped the highest value dampener on there, and that's where all the reports of the muddy kind of sound are coming from. But originally it wasn't like that. There was no dampener on these from the factory until I spoke with the manufacturer, because I guess they follow me on Facebook and they saw my posts. So they reached out to me and asked for a little bit of feedback. I didn't really give them anything like the script. I was just kind of like, yeah, there's no dampener on there. You might want to add a dampener. Here's a graph, and I did not tell them to use the highest value. I just kind of pointed out, like, here's the different levels. This graph looks better a little bit than this one, and so forth and so on. So anyway, so long story short, then Hawaii Bad Boy. So shout out to Hawaii Bad Boy. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, so I have this MIM Dark Magician. Would you like to take apart the other half? Cause he's just like me, just like Michael Bruce. We all like to take apart these IMs and see what's inside and see what makes them tick." And so he messaged me. He said, "Hey man, look, if you want the rest of this set," he's like, "I'll send it to you. You can take it apart, see how it works." And I said, "Yeah, sure, definitely, like totally." And because we were talking about the drivers, and this was right around the time that the EA 500 had launched, and so we were talking about the EA 500. Anyway, so he sends me the IM, and I think by that time I had uh, taken apart. Yeah, so at that time I had already taken apart the XSL X1, and I had already seen the driver, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's kind of a cheap looking driver. Nothing special." And from the sound of the IM, you wouldn't be able to tell. But I could hear a little bit, and it's just like Michael Bruce said, and it's not. This isn't bogus. This isn't BS or like confirmation bias or whatever you want to call it. I did hear a little bit of magic to the driver, and I did hear what they're talking about. A lot of it rests in the timbre, and the naturalness of like the replay, but the tuning was just not there, and I wasn't going to take the time to retune the IM because I got a lot of stuff going on and it just didn't really interest me. I was gonna make a video on it, but then I was like, you know, whatever. But anyway, so long story short, so these arrived, and so immediately I plugged them in, graphed them, listened to them for a few minutes or whatever, and then set to taking them apart. And when I took apart the Dark Magician, and I saw the back, I said, "Hey, that looks." I was like, "That looks kind of familiar." I was like, "I think I've seen that driver somewhere before." So I said, "Okay, well, let me keep digging, and I'll get this driver out." And so I started digging it out as carefully as possible, um, and I was greeted with this, and I said, "Holy crap!" I said, "No way!" I was like, "Are you? Is that? Are they the same driver?" So for anybody that's not familiar, the Dark Magician is like a, I don't know, $600-700 IM. It's probably like, I think it's like $600, $700, and the XSL X1 is a $50 IM. Okay, now I'll point out, so the shell profiles are much different. So on the Dark Magician, it is literally just a straight bore that goes all the way through. There's a little relief vent that is drilled into the side of the nozzle, and you can see there's like a little dampener just resting inside there. But yeah, so it's decent quality shell. Not the nicest I've seen, but definitely decent quality shell. And so anyway, so the driver just shoots straight out. So what you're hearing for the most part is coming straight out of the center of the driver, whereas the XSL X1 is slightly askewed, and this is more common of these style of IAMs. So anyway, so when you're hearing the driver, you're actually hearing it off axis a little bit, which doesn't really do too much. It depends on the driver. See, that's the thing. I've had some drivers where you will load them into a shell that is off center, and like it'll destroy the clarity. It'll sound kind of like muffled or distant, kind of. But anyway, but there's other drivers that you can't even tell the difference, because it's, as long as it has some sort of line of sight of the center area there, for the most part, all the sound will direct its way to the ear. But usually the highs are just a little bit diminished compared to a straight-on nozzle where you get the full-on treble, because high frequencies are very direct. They don't refract or diffract or whatever off of surfaces as well as lower frequencies. So higher frequencies tend to be sort of focused. So when you have a straight shell like this, they just go through the nozzle. But when you have a angled shell like this, they have to kind of bounce. And if there's not a way or a tapered edge for them to kind of bounce, they'll be diminished. And even then, in that bouncing, they still lose just a little bit of energy. And sometimes you'll get ringing and stuff like that. But anyway, so yeah, so I took them apart and I was like, holy crap. Like, I was like, I can't believe, first off, I can't believe that the Dark Magician is using such a cheap driver. And secondly, I can't believe that a cheap IM is using the Dark Magician driver. like mind blown. But anyway, but then, so that brings up a couple issues. So here are the diaphragms. This is the back side. I can show you the front side of the diaphragms. But yeah, so now the coils are coated differently, but I believe the voice coil material is the same. The diaphragm material is definitely the same. I checked it under the microscope, and they appear to be the same chemistry and everything, same opacity and whatnot. But anyway, so you'll see one has kind of a red tinge to it and the other doesn't. That is, I believe, just the glue. So they have different. They have glue that bonds the voice coil to the membrane. And on this one, they used a red glue, whereas on the Dark Magician, they used more of a transparent yellow type of glue. So anyway, but when you look at the everything else, the covers of the drivers, when you look at the magnet structure, this little basket that holds the drivers, the dampening on the back, they both have double dampeners. You see this one's a little bit smaller, but they both use double dampeners. Possibly different values, maybe not. And then you'll notice same thing on the basket. So we have a dampener there on the basket. I'm pretty positive that these are all the same value, but anyway, yeah. So from all accounts, from all the evidence, I can see these are in fact the same exact driver, if not very, 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 very close. So yeah, so with that being said, give me 1 second. I'm just going to pause real quick, grab a needle so I can pull these diaphragms out. Alright guys, so yeah, so here are the two diaphragms, and you'll notice from the front they do look quite a bit different. But I assure you that has nothing to do with the diaphragms themselves, just the glue. But yeah, so you can see the little striations, or whatever you want to call them, the reliefs that are pressed into the surround ring. Those are the same. The angles, everything are the same. The height of the dome are the same. The size of the voice coil. Even the glue, the amount of glue used is the same, but you can't really tell because like I said, this glue is more transparent. But when you look at it under a microscope, you can see how much glue they used, and I mean, it's just, that's way, way too close. Now, that being said, the Dark Magician, I believe, was advertised as a either a carbon nanotube or a DLC driver. Now, there's some problems in translation between Chinese and English. Some of the words they use to describe things in English are different than what we use, and I have no idea what the actual material is. But the representative that I spoke to, who works for the company that builds the X1, they said that the diaphragm material is graphene. So it is a graphene driver. Now, if it was a like a CNT or a DLC or something, I would imagine that it would be just a little bit darker. Now, it could still be like a weak form of DLC, like not impregnated with very much, just a little bit. But probably more than likely it is graphene impregnated. Now, graphene is actually extremely strong and light, and is quite the capable material when used in diaphragms. For anybody that hasn't heard a true graphene diaphragm, they have a lot of the characteristics of this sound right here. And I actually have a driver, I don't have it on me, that is similar in sound to the Dark Magician driver, but unfortunately they're when I bought a few of them, and they're just what do you call it, the QC wasn't great, so a lot of the drivers kind of sounded different, and it was hard for me to make an IM around them. But yeah, so anyway, so those are the diaphragms and everything. But yeah, so I showed Hawaii Bad Boy and everybody on Facebook. They've all seen this a while ago. But yeah, I guess apparently somebody sent Michael Bruce their XSL X1, and he said, you know what, fuck it, let me take a stab at retuning it. And props to him for doing it. I thought about doing it, but the thing is so initially I tried to remove the drivers and save them, but the damn glue that they used on this shell, on these drivers, was so hard, and the fact that the wires are run external and there's not like really a channel, I guess there is a little bit of a channel, but the fact that the wires were run down down the side of the IM, and or down the side of the speaker, and were exposed to this incredible glue, I damaged both drivers, and none of them were usable. And what I really wanted to do was transplant the driver into the Dark Magician and graft the driver by itself. So I wasn't about to buy another pair of these because it's 50 bucks down the drain every time you buy another pair. And I wanted to move on to other things. So like I have the X0 here. These are also, I believe, graphene drivers, but they're totally different. These are very similar to the Melee as far as the type of driver being used, and the shells. The shells are actually closer to Olina. They have that revised profile of the Olina original, but they are using a slightly different version of the Melee driver. So anyway, but not really much to talk about with these either. I mean, they're okay, but they're anyway, they're not great. But yeah, so that's that, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. But yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Michael Bruce for mentioning me in the video, and just wanted to provide a little bit more information. Also, he mentioned in his video that the drivers were stated as being 10.2 millimeter. I have no idea where they got that from. He said that he possibly thinks that it was to throw people off the trail, and I kind of think I might agree with that because after that IM came out, it was so sought after, and people were hyping it up to all hell. I don't know, maybe they knew they had something special on their hands, and with the driver being as cheap as it is, I think they just thought like, hey, let's keep it a secret. But it is a 10 millimeter driver. It's actually a little bit shy, even when I measure it on so this dome here wraps over the rest of the driver, so it's kind of like a cap. Even when I measure it at the edges of the dome here, it's still less than 10 millimeters. It actually measures 9.9. But anyway, but yeah, so it's definitely not 10.2 millimeters. And I forget what he said the other thing was. There was something else that they had mentioned in the material, and he wasn't. Oh, it was the driver material. But yeah, it definitely looks more like graphene or something like that, or maybe a very light DLC. But yeah, anyway, either that or it's just PET. But yeah, probably more likely that it's either a slight graphene impregnated or slight DLC. So, but anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Oh shoot, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.